Good afternoon. We're going to do this week's watch list for the week of November 9th, 2020. I know that Biden has been officially elected as president, so we'll have to see how the market reacts to that. So I would imagine that the market's probably going to gap up, because I was looking at weekend Wall Street just to get an idea if it's going to be positive, negative, and it's right now it says plus 90 points. So we'll have to see. I mean, weekend Wall Street's really not that accurate, but I do like to look at it once in a while to see if it's going to gap up. So we could see a gap up on SPY, but we'll get to that in a minute. We get Tesla already up, so we'll start with Tesla. We'll start with the bullish side. Tesla, I mean, you get this little, you can see this blue line right here, and then close under it, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I mean, even though that the MACD is going down, it's starting to, it stayed above the zero on the which is the purple line. So, and it did cross over on the daily. So I would watch it over 433, and if it can get over the 440 area, probably make a run to the 450. Now that's going to be the really important area, because it's rejected here, here, and here, and it did here. I mean, it got over and closed, and then it got quickly rejected the next day. So if you can get over the 450 area with some volume, it's got some room that it could probably get to the, let's see, the high of this one's 460, and that'll be a triple top, because that's right around let's see, 462 if you average up. Yeah, it's 465. So it does clear 450. It's probably going to make a run to the 460s, 465. And if it does manage to break that with some news or some volume or whatever, it could probably get to the 470s and even 480s. So it does have a gap. If you look on the hourly on the left, that it does have a gap in the 460 area. So it could fill the gap. You do see inverted head and shoulders on the hourly, and get the left, the head, and the right, and if the 440 will be the neckline. So it gets over that, it could shoot to 460 and fill that gap. So definitely watch that. Now getting back to SPY, this is the next one on the list. That well, all-time high is 458.75, and if the market does gap up, I mean, let's just say it does gap up to, like, say, over 352. Who knows? I mean, I have no idea what the reaction is going to be. It could be that the market could be looking at it from the point of view, because there's a final that the decision has been made, there's been someone elected, that maybe stimulus is going to come out, or there won't be as much tug and war going on with Congress. But I don't know. We'll have to really see what happens. So this will be a tricky week. But tonight's reaction on futures and tomorrow will be the indicator of how the week's probably going to play out. So if I had to guess, we're probably going to gap up, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we ended up making a run to all-time highs before quickly rejecting. But there also is a trend line right here. I mean, I could draw it right there. It is underneath a trend line. In fact, I'll draw it. I mean, probably won't be the prettiest, but it'll give you an idea. And you get a trend line right there. I mean, and it is up against the trend line, but if it gaps over it, it avoids it, and it's possible that if it gaps up, it could sell off tomorrow. So but I mean, I'm also looking at the point of view, if it gaps up to 355, say it gets up around 355 area tomorrow, it's only a few dollars from all-time high. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it gets pushed to 360, because the market loves to overshoot, because everybody's going to probably be shorting right here. I also like to look at the, if you go to stock charts, you can type in, like, you're going to use the $ CPCE, and you use the daily. Remember to put the $ in front of it. And you can look at the put to call ratio. Right now, the put to call ratio is very, very low. Everyone's loaded in calls. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it ends up popping and selling off. But that's just, we'll just have to see what happens. But I mean, if it does get over 355, I think the market always shoots and can go to 360, but we'll have to play by ear and see what happens. So it's going to be pretty much a guessing game. It's going to be hard to predict. But anyways, that's my thoughts. It gets over this pre-market the high on Friday of 353, 352. I think it shoots to 355, and that will be the area. It's either going to break out to go to all-time highs, or it's going to reject. So that's what I'd be looking for tomorrow and this week. Netflix is another one on the list. Let me get my pointer up, my drawer out of the way, because that drives me bananas. Now you have, as you can see on the MACD, it's crossing over on the daily. Obviously, if the market gaps up, and Netflix is probably going to gap up with it, so anything over 520 is going to probably fill the gap into the 525. Then you get that resistance in the 536 area. If it does manage to break that, which it's been sticking in this channel, as you can see, the daily, it's been bouncing in and out of this channel. Yeah, it gets over that into the 440 area, 540 area, and it gets quickly rejected. So we'll just have to see what happens once it gets to the 540 area. Now remember, support resistance is not an exact number, it's an area. So don't think, oh, it has to hit 536, 33, and if it rejects, now it can shoot to 540, you can go to 550. This is the area you're going to be watching right in here. The 550 to 540 area is where it could reject. So I know that's a big area, but that's just the way it is. BA is another one. BA has been such a loser for such a long time. Maybe if stimulus comes out, it can get some momentum and start breaking out. I would look at it over the 159 area for push to 160, and gets to 160. It's probably going to get to the 165 area. There's a gap right here, the 167. But if you look at the daily, it really has trouble in the 170s area. So if it does manage to get to the 170 and consolidate, it's got a chance to break out, but it could get rejected again. So 170 is going to be the crucial number on BA. Win. I know Win had terrible ER, but based on Friday's action, you wouldn't think so. But anything over $81, I think it gets pushed to 85. It even gets to push to 90. So we'll have to see what happens. We also have Biden coming out tomorrow, I believe, with a COVID task force. I think a lockdown is coming. It's just a matter of when, and that's when things are going to get clobbered. So be very, very cautious about the news. Make sure that you're very up to date to what's going on, because all it's going to take is one tweet or one news event. It's going to change the dynamics of everything. So just be very, very cautious of that. BABA is another one. Whoops, where did that go? I typed in BABA and I don't know where it went. BABA is another one. I've been shorting it, but now that Biden's in there, China's going to love Biden. So I'm looking for it to fill the gap. So I'll look over Friday's high, which is 301, would say over 301 for a push to 310. And if it gets to 310, it might even be able to fill this little gap right in here at the 315, even the 320 area. So Bubba's got a chance that now that Biden's in there, or going to be in there. Costco. Now Costco has showed up on my divergence scanners like crazy. I mean, it's you get a bearish divergence going on in the RSI. MACD, the histogram, the stochastics. I mean, yeah, it's a high probability it probably will drop, but it's also at all-time highs going into Christmas, going into another possible lockdown. I think that Costco breaks out. So over 387, push to 390, even possibly even 400 on Costco. Now, also be aware that if you're in calls and you do play that breakout, it could be a false breakout, just enough to suck in calls before they tank it. There is a lot of divergence, like I said, on 3 indicators, and usually when you have divergences on 3 indicators, it's a high probability of it's going to pull back. So be aware that it's there, but this is also Costco at all-time highs, going into a possible another lockdown, and COVID ramping up, panic possibly starting to come in. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. Disney. Disney's just been like in this little channel right here. I mean, you get this like little cup and handle right here. You get a cup and a big handle, if you want to even say. I mean, technically, the handle should be a lot smaller. I mean, this, I guess, if you want to say this was the cup and that was the handle. But anyways, I still think that if it can get over this 128 area, I'd even say 128.50, it'd probably push to 130, 132. 135 would probably be the high I'd go on it. We'll just have to see how the market is this week. Obviously, the market's strong. Disney will probably go with it. But the other day, market gapped up big and Disney didn't, because I remember I took a loss on that, so I was not too happy about that. Another one to keep an eye on is EA. It had bad earnings. Now it's showing a bullish divergence on the MACD. On the histogram, you see it's making a lower low right there, and the histogram is making a higher low. So we'll have to see if it does manage to get over. If it's going into winter time, like I said, another possible lockdown. People are gonna have nothing to do, and gaming could start taking off again, like it did in the past. So I would watch it over the 120, actually even say over 120 area to fill the gap. Get to 124, then even get to 128. If it gets to 128, you might even have a chance to get to 130. So EA is another possibility to watch. Now, I mentioned I did forget to mention that Disney has earnings Thursday after hours, so I'm not quite sure what the options will look like, if they'll be too expensive or not. I would imagine Disney is probably not too expensive. Like, it would probably end up being like Apple. When Apple had earnings, it's not too bad. So we'll have to look at it tomorrow to see what happens. Now, on the bearish side, I have Roku. I know that Roku had a big run, and why can I not type in Roku? Here we go. Roku is showing up on all indicators, bearish divergence. High right here, higher high, making lower highs on the RSI, the histogram, the MACD, the stochastics. Look how disconnected it is from the hourly, from the this orange line, which is the regression trend line channel. Trend line, and I think that if it gets below 250, it's going to probably come down and at least get back into this 225 area. We'll have to see if that's what happens or not. But it's so disconnected. Anytime that a stock gets disconnected, like as you can see right here, it ramped up and it came back down and consolidated, and then it pulled back. And it did it right here. It gets too far out. I mean, it's outside the Keltner channel on the daily, and when it gets too far out, it likes to come back in. So right here, it did it. Here, it did it. Here, and I'm assuming it's going to happen here again. So history tends to repeat itself. I mean, if you look at the weekly, weekly does the same thing. Look how, I mean, it gets out really far, then boom, it just dumps. And get out, comes back, drops down too low, comes back. This regression trend line channel, trend line right here, it just works so well when things get too far disconnected from it. I mean, right down here, it got too far away from it and decided it just acts like a magnet. So I'm anticipating that Roku is going to pull back this week. We'll have to see if it does, 250 to possibly the 230 area. QCOM is another one. I think it's going to pull back too. I mean, it popped up on earnings and it just sat here sideways. It's got like a little descending triangle right here. As you can see, it's flat right there. It's trending down. It's been selling pressures pushing it down. It gets below this 144 area. It's probably going to test gap support at 142. If it loses that, which is not too far away, it could fill the gap. So the gap's at 130. So definitely would watch that. The last one is Deer. I don't usually play Deer that much, but there is another one that's showing up on all indicators, just like QCOM was. I'll go back to QCOM real quick. Yeah, you can see. No, it didn't. No, it's not. It's not. Okay. For some reason I was thinking that QCOM did it too. I know a couple of them did. Roku, DA. I think the other one was Costco. Well, anyways, this has a showing on all three indicators too that you get a bearish divergence. I mean, histogram. It's making a higher high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So it's a possibility it could pull back. I would watch it underneath this 245 area for a push down to the 240. down to the 230, 35 area, and possibly even to 230. So I would definitely watch that. I know that deer is a little more pricey with options, so I wonder what cat looks like. Cat and deer should look fairly similar. No, it does not. So I'll have to see. I might watch cat. I don't know. It's got a cat. I don't like trading that much because it ends up just screwing me over half the time. But anyways, that's gonna do it. I only have a few on the bear side. I think a lot of it's gonna hinge on what happens this week with Biden, any news coming out, any shenanigans, anything that Trump says, or I don't know. We'll just have to see. It's gonna be a very unpredictable week. It's probably gonna be greatly news generated. That it's any bad news it's going to dump, any good news it could pop, or any news at all. I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. So that's going to do it. Thanks for watching.